What's hurting our teens and how do we help? Don't miss this powerful conversation on teen mental health and the rising epidemic of loneliness.
We'll discuss this today on Real Family Talk. Join us. Today on Real Family Talk, we're discussing the mental health of teens and how to support them.
According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, among U.S. adolescents ages 12 through 17, 20% reported symptoms of anxiety, while 18% report symptoms of depression.
At the same time, when it came to high school students in 2023, 40% reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. 20% reported seriously considering attempting suicide in the past year, and 16% reported making a suicide plan in the past year. How can we help and what can we do? Dr. Katia Reinert joins us today as we dive into this important subject.
That's right. Dr. Reinert is a family nurse practitioner, and she serves as one of the associate directors for health ministries for the General Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. In her role at Health Ministries, she is involved in improving the health of populations globally through addiction recovery, health behavior change, and violence prevention programs as coordinator for Adventist Recovery Ministries Global and Youth Alive, a program designed to build resilience among teens and young adults by equipping them to make health choices, good choices. Dr. Reinert, thank you for being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's always fun to have you. So clearly there's a very negative trend. What do you think is causing this trend, is pushing this trend with our teens?
Well, it's a very concerning trend. And, you know, when we look at mental health, there are different factors, risk factors, and things that are like boosting this trend. We have obviously the biological part, that's genetics and everything. But I think it's the trends that we see are more related to the social and behavioral risk factors that impact our youth and young adults.
So what would you say are some of the root causes of this mental health epidemic with teens?
Yeah, so again, related to the social and behavioral risk-taking that takes place since even before the pandemic, but I think especially since the pandemic, the last 5 years or so, we have seen first, maybe this disconnection that's taking place. There's less in-person kind of contact and friends and real relationships. It's a lot based on the social media relationships that they are spending most of their time on, as well as, you know, perhaps technology is
even these days,
blocking that.
Even these days, they're not really going to church. They're going to church online. So many people have not gone back to church because of the pandemic and getting used to going to church online.
That's true.
So that
there's
continues.
less social contact.
Less social contact in person. So that's one aspect, I would say. Obviously, the second one is the result of that is that there's more loneliness. They are feeling isolated, less ability to have a sense of self that is accurate and that shows value and everything. And so they need that, you know, during those adolescent years as part of the development. And so it's impacting the brain. It's impacting how they relate, find the purpose that they have, which is important as well in that process. And obviously, you know, over the last few years, this has just exorbitantly increased.
Yeah, and this is so crazy because supposedly social media gives you more social contact. But what's happening with that? We're seeing the loneliness increase. We have 1,000 friends online, followers, but there's a loneliness epidemic with teens. In the past, when we heard loneliness, we thought about elderly people.
Yes.
right? Their family's not visiting them. They don't have anyone to socialize with. But now we're seeing it in teenagers.
Yes, yes. And again, it's all related, as you said, to the social media piece. It's not that the social media, the friends you have, it's horrible, it's terrible. It's important. I mean, it's good.
Yes.
The problem is the excessive use and reliance on that to substitute the real relationship.
And would you say also the level of artificiality of it?
Correct.
People are looking for likes, and people are looking for what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And most of that is nicely curated,
Yes.
so that what you have is my best pictures, my best shots. And sometimes they exaggerate a little bit about what they're doing and how much
definitely.
fun they're having.
Definitely.
So when teenagers are seeing their peers doing fantastic things, going places, and they're not doing any of that,
Yeah.
it makes them feel less than, makes them feel like maybe they're not living.
True.
And
And
so,
then you couple that
Yes, yeah.
with cyberbullying.
Yes.
And
Right.
with the violence that, because among teens especially, not only they're feeling bad, as you're saying, but then there is this violence, verbal violence being shared. They are being called names. They are being attacked through cyberbullying, which makes even worse the situation.
So you mentioned something about what the social media is doing to their brains.
Yeah.
So again, we're not attacking social media,
Sure.
but how is this impacting? How's the digital world impacting this
Yeah.
epidemic of loneliness and depression and increased suicide
It's
attempts?
really terrible. In fact, there's a term that has been used to demonstrate
yeah.
the impact. It's called brain rot.
Yes.
And so some of the latest studies have been showing the direct connection of this excessive use, especially among youth who are now they are actually addicted to
Right.
the social media.
Right.
And so the brain is not able to learn as, before this trend was coming. And so now there's this brain rot. I mean, they're not able to really learn in a way that would be meaningful for them if you look into the future. So school may be an issue that they're having struggles with. And then you couple that with the mental, as I said, the anxiety, because there are some pressures. They need to perform in school and they need to, advance. What am I going to do with my life? And now, this behavior is not helping them develop to be what they should do or should be, in the future.
Yeah, we want to continue on that point, but we have to take a break. So when we return, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Katia Reinert about the mental health of teens, how to help them, and what resources are available. We'll be right back.
Today on Real Family Talk, we are sitting down with Dr. Katia Reinert about the rising loneliness epidemic among teens and the rising negative mental health trend.
Okay, so before the break, we spoke a little bit about some of the factors that are involved with this trend, this very negative trend. So tell us a little bit more about what teens can do to build resilience. We'll speak a little bit about parents, but specifically, what can our teens do to mitigate this trend, the brain rot, the increased addiction to digital devices and social media? Help us with
Yes.
that.
Well, we have to remember teens, their brain is not yet fully developed.
That's correct.
Right? So we can't put, obviously, the whole pressure only on them, although they do have a role, and I will talk about that now. But we have to also, I just want to mention this, make this the companies that are working with social media responsible.
Absolutely.
And then the parents.
Yes.
But what can teens do? That's your question. I think that first we need to do a good job trying to raise awareness about the real dangers so that they can have support in making better decisions, right? Better choices,
Right.
limiting their time. Start to pay attention to the symptoms, like the signs that this is harmful for them,
Right.
and try to really reduce the usage. Hopefully, if they're not addicted, we know that if they're truly addicted, they're going to be needing help outside, not only because they lose control.
So how would a child or parent, a teenager, know the difference between addiction and I just like using this device or playing this game or being on social media?
Well, one of the first signs is that there is excessive use. So according to the U.S. Surgeon General, excessive use would be 3 or 5 hours or more spent a day on social media, which is actually very common, right? I mean, a lot of people spend more than that time.
Because then we're all addicted.
Yeah, because there is obviously the good usage because you're using this for school or whatever.
Right.
But then when it's plain use, not related to anything, and it's a lot of time you're spending on it, that's one sign.
It takes up every part of your life.
Of course, that is another sign. So now you are spending much more than that, and you don't have time for the things that you used to enjoy. Sports, I don't know, singing, being in some of these other activities,
hanging
after
out
class,
with your friends.
being with your friends in person, right? So this is now taking over your life. So that's a second. Third, you lost control. You say, oh yeah, that's not good. I'm spending. I need to do that. But you can't control it because one thing leads to the other. You're scrolling. Suddenly 3 hours went by, So the loss of control is another one. And obviously you start to have worse grades in school. You're not doing so well in school. You're feeling isolated. You don't feel good. After you actually feel more depressed. Maybe you're experiencing the anxiety that some of the young girls are experiencing, or depression because of the communication that's happening there. The cyberbullying, and so all of this combines, making you feel worse. And if you're truly addicted, you're going to just have to, because there's tolerance built, you're going to have to do more and more, and you're going to feel not as good. You're going to feel worse and worse and worse over time.
So you're using more and more social media and feeling worse and worse about yourself.
Correct.
So what can guardians and parents do to help teens manage this reality? And even churches, what can we do as communities of faith to raise the awareness, to talk about it?
I think we really need to look at the important risk factors that build resilience in the youth. So obviously information is important. So talking openly about these things without a judgmental attitude, but really, good open communication. I know you talk a lot about that for the parents, about how to communicate well, and the teachers, etc. But then information is not enough.
Right.
Yes.
Especially with teens, they're, again, they depend on what the parents are going to do at home. So setting limits. No phone in your room overnight. That's recommended by,
the American Pediatric Association.
And also, the U.S. Surgeon General said, no room. What else? Not in the meals. No phone in the meals.
That's right.
So how can we come up with a system where not only teens, but also parents, because parents
I was going to say, the third thing is role modeling,
that's
right? Because what you do, they're going to say, but you're doing it.
Right, unless you're an emergency physician.
Of course, and you have
should
to
not,
be.
right, and how many of the people are, right? So then you don't need your phone, right?
Modeling,
I mean, there might be other people, but I'm just saying that most times you don't really need to check that email during dinner time.
No. And that, again, goes back to that root cause of disconnection, because it could be that you're over a meal and nobody's talking. You're just checking your phone or whatever. And so that is an important thing, setting the limits, the hours, and give your phones and allow your kids social media use only after it's recommended 13 or 14 years old, older. Now parents are giving the phone to their kids
2, 3, 4.
Well, not even. The kids can't even speak, and they're scrolling, and they're swiping.
Yeah.
They know how to swipe.
Yeah. And so parents are busy, and they think that's convenient. They're occupied.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the negative outcomes.
So parents have to hold themselves accountable.
Yeah.
And churches need to talk more about these things in their programming.
Yeah, so you talked about churches.
Yeah.
I think there's some important role for churches and schools to take as well, not only in educating, but building these resilience factors for prevention and recovery of addiction in the case of those that are already addicted.
Yeah, so we know that having a purpose in life is a protective factor. Yeah. And spirituality as well. So how can parents work with their teens to help them recognize the importance of this? Because with the devices, I think it's easy for kids to say, oh, well, I'll watch a good video here. How do you deal with that when you're working with teens and you're building these programs, like the Youth Alive program? I know deals a lot with
Making good choices, healthy
developing,
choices.
making healthy choices, and also helping our teens to have a purpose in life and a connection to God, a personal faith.
Yeah. So you mentioned Youth Alive. That's exactly what we're focusing. We're focusing on connection, connection to God, and connection with others, whether there be mentors, and those could be parents, teachers, elders in the church or pastors.
Youth pastors, yeah.
But all youth pastors, but also other peers that are role models.
Yeah.
So this connection is important. But you mentioned spirituality. So when in Youth Alive we use different ways to build these connections. Let's start with God. With God, it's helping them see that God is real and they need this real relationship. So technology. I'm watching this video about God. Okay, but are you talking to God? Do you hear God speaking to you? Is He meaningful to you? Who do you think He is? Is He real in your life? Is He your friend? Is He? Who do you see? So we try to help them experience God personally. And obviously, parents, teachers, they role model that too because they talk about their experience with God and all, so they can learn from that aspect. So the horizontal relationship is also important with the teachers, the parents, the mentors, and with other friends because they can talk about these things. They create a safe space for them. They may have doubts. A lot of youth may have doubts about God.
Yeah, and that's normal.
Why does God allow this and that to happen? So you can talk about it.
So the attitude of parents is very important.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of judgment, openness.
Yes.
And I'm here. I see you, and I'm present for you if you need me.
Yeah. Learning how to listen well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right?
I know. So we have to take a break, but we'll talk more with Dr. Katia Reinert when we return after this break. Stay with us. We're back on Real Family Talk discussing the mental health of teens with Dr. Katia Reinert, Associate Director of Health Ministries for the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists.
So, Dr. Reinert, what are some of the signs that parents or guardians could be looking for when teens are going into this loneliness space or depression or anxiety? What are some of those signs?
Yeah, I think especially among teens, one of the critical signs is when you notice they are withdrawn. Maybe they're spending a lot of time in their room locked and they're not really able to connect with the family, express themselves and talk. That's one, I think, of the signs you really need to watch for and see how they respond when you try to engage them. Sometimes they may be irritable. Because they don't want to. Obviously, we know that there are some developmental things with teens that, depending on the personality and etc., they may be more introverts. And that's okay. So you need to be able to differentiate that. But if it's a difference in their behavior than what it used to be, and now they're withdrawn, they are not really enjoying the things they used to bring them pleasure, right?
They're losing their appetite.
They're losing their appetite. Maybe they're eating too much.
Or eating more.
Or not eating enough, so they're losing weight.
Dropping.
And this is an issue, particularly with girls with eating disorders as well. That may be an impact. They may be connected to anorexia and bulimia among girls because then they start losing weight. They have a distorted view of their body, what it looks like. So we see that as well. Growing, a trend growing. So some of those things are important to notice. Perhaps they are starting to fail in school. Their grades are not so good, and they just don't want to. They don't know why, or they don't want to talk about it. And how are they connecting with their friends? I mean, is it primarily social media? Do they bring friends at home? Are they having those times, or they're just isolating themselves further? How many friends do they have they can count on? So some of those things are important to notice and try to connect with them and see. And then, I would say important to have them talk to someone, like a counselor, and explore that further.
Yeah, and I think that is so critical because too often parents may just excuse this behavior as just typical teenage behavior. But again, the parent really attuning to what is happening in their child's life and asking questions. So kind of all goes together.
So you run a program called Youth Alive.
Yes.
And it is to help young teens and young adults to make healthy choices. Tell us a little bit more about that, and perhaps how can that be helpful to some of these teens around the world who might be withdrawing and feeling lonely.
And how do they access
and have lost
this
purpose?
program?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Youth Alive is this program that focuses on building resilience among youth and young adults, and it's a collaboration because we cannot do it just alone. We need families, parents involved. We need teachers involved. We need to really work as a community.
Youth leaders.
Yeah, certainly for churches we have youth leaders, youth mentors, and so. I think the critical thing with Youth Alive is that we try to provide the connections, as I mentioned earlier, through what we call Youth Alive friendship groups. And so they're able to have like mentors, youth and adult mentors, as well as other peers, and be able to talk about feelings, but through a fun way, through activities, through games. We obviously have also seminars and things that they can learn. They can learn from the portal. We have a Youth Alive portal online they can go to, and they can take courses there about some of the things we talked about. They can connect with other articles, books free. They can access a lot of good information, videos. But the more important thing, again, is the in-person connection. So the friendship groups provide that. And they're able to slowly start to trust, the mentors and start to talk about. Many of them come from broken homes,
That's
As you
correct.
know, there's trauma at home.
Right.
And so sometimes they need to feel safe to talk about how that is impacting them because early childhood experiences that they've had or teenage experiences make an impact. So providing that and the resources they can use, referrals as needed, to be able to deal with that in healthy ways, to regulate their emotions, to, just be able to know themselves better and know that they're not alone. They can rely on God and they can rely on adults that can support
Right.
them.
And you mentioned the website.
Yeah.
And we'll probably put it up on the screen, but can you just mention it again? And you also
Yes.
have mental health resources
We do.
on that website.
Yes, it's a very important part because this program is meant to help young people reduce their at-risk behaviors. It includes suicide, self-harm, but also other mental health issues and addictions. So all these risky behaviors. And so the portal is a website, youthaliveportal.org, but also there's an app. They can download the app and access this through the app. And so it's something that is accessible in many languages, actually, available as well.
So what can parents and churches do to support this program? How can they connect their young people with it? Are there any training opportunities, and how do they access that information?
Yeah, that's important. This is a program that the Adventist Church offers, and usually we bring this to people who are interested through the church system. So let's say, a parent would say, I really would like this in my church. You could talk to, the pastor and the leadership in that region, and then they can send, or they can contact us directly. Sometimes we do that for them to connect them with the local people so that we can bring the training. We do facilitators training and then also connect with the youth so they can learn how to create the friendship groups in a safe way for the kids. And,
right. But if you're not an Adventist and you're watching this program, you could find your local Adventist church.
That's right.
And ask about it. Or
because it's open to everyone.
It's for anyone, obviously.
Right.
And you can even benefit the resources by going online to the portal and start to see what's there. Maybe you could share that with your kids and say, oh, I saw this article, I saw this book, look at this app. And so that they can be exposed to the resources. And if they wish to do this themselves, no matter what church they're in, they can sign up as a leader, and that would allow them to actually download manuals and other training resources that they could use to host maybe in their home a group for their kids and their friends, and
so if a parent is watching this right now and they need help, what can they do?
So I would say go online first to the Youth Alive resources, youthaliveportal.org, or download the app. It's called Youth Alive app, and start to explore the resources that are there, because some of them are for parents. There are some classes there and things. And then from there, if they want to use this program, they can then connect with their local church, maybe their Christian school or the school that the kids are, to see how to implement that there.
Dr. Reinert, thank you for being with us and sharing today. Is there any last comment that you may want to say or share with the parents, the viewing audience?
I think it's important to say that if parents are struggling or if they see their kids struggling, it's very important that they don't just leave it, but talk to a medical provider, a pediatrician, talk to someone who can actually diagnose the issue and really give good advice and care, because there's hope, there's treatment, and we want to get the young people connected with that.
Thank you for that. God is deeply interested in the well-being of our youth, their spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical health. In 1 Timothy 4:12, the Bible tells us, "Let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity."
Thank you for watching Real Family Talk today. Join us again when we'll share more about strengthening families and inspiring hope. See you next time.